Marco Polo was one of the most famous explorers in Western civilization and is said to have inspired Christopher Columbus. In his book, The Travels of Marco Polo, he claims to have traveled along the Silk Road all the way to eastern China to meet with Kublai, the emperor of the Yuan dynasty. The Yuan dynasty was not of Chinese origin, but rather was founded by Chinggis Khan, calling the Mongolian steppe home. Many historians conclude that Marco Polo's travels to China were at least loosely based on reality. With this in mind, the question evolves into a more subjective realm and follows: did Marco Polo see the real China or a foreign China governed by alien peoples? Marco arrived in China in 1275 during the height of the Yuan Empire. There is no doubt that Kublai and the Yuan dynasty were alien rulers of China. However, some aspects of Kublai's rule point to a more Sinicized version of governance. The Chinese people believed that Kublai satisfied the mandate of heaven and considered him to be the true emperor of China. One clear example of Kublai's Sinicized nature was his decision to move the capital from Mongolia to present-day Peking in northern China, and construct it in Chinese style. The city included traditional Chinese temples for ancestor worship, but also contained Mongolian decor and traditional Mongolian tents, in which Kublai occasionally slept. Another example of Kublai's eagerness to ingratiate himself with his Chinese subjects involved his openness towards all religions. In fact, Kublai's rule was marked by an era of openness. He facilitated agriculture, art, artisan craftwork, merchant trading, and did not simply use China as a tax farm. Although most Chinese classes benefited from Kublai's short rule, the elite scholar official class did not. He removed the civil service examinations because he did not want to be subject to advisors and officials shaped by a Chinese ideology. Furthermore, many of the elite class were stripped of their titles and positions. He even divided China into 4 social or ethnic classes which ranked Mongols, then Western and Central Asians, then Northern Chinese, and finally Southern Chinese. The official terminology of the Yuan bureaucracy might lead to the conclusion that Kublai merely adopted an almost purely Chinese structure of government, but in fact the Yuan bureaucracy consisted of a mixture of different political and cultural elements. Kublai implemented many policies that were foreign to both Chinese and Mongolians. For example, he employed a more lenient legal system, issued paper currency, instituted a postal relay system, and established a history office under the Hanling Academy. Although Kublai made many concessions to the Chinese, he took the throne through militaristic means, and his intent in keeping China under Mongolian rule is exemplified by policies that made certain that Mongolian control of the military and its supplies would not be jeopardized. Kublai succeeded admirably in charting a cultural policy that affirmed the Mongolian heritage, accepted Chinese practices, and strove for universalism. Chinese culture made little overall impact on the Mongols as a people, and conversely, Mongolian court life found little reflection in China at large. The China that Marco Polo saw was not entirely Chinese, nor was it entirely Mongolian. Instead, it was a hybrid empire in which all cultures were allowed to flourish.